Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Rihanna declared National Hero of Barbados. International hit singer Rihanna, 33, has been declared a National Hero of Barbados. The declaration coincided with Monday night's transition of Barbados to Republic, cutting ties from the British. Prime Minister Mia Mottley made the announcement in Bridgetown to loud cheers as Rihanna was called up to be acknowledged. May you continue to shine like a diamond and bring honor to your nation by your works, by your actions, stated Mia. The Prime Minister was referring to Rihanna's 2012 chart-topping single Diamonds. The singer, whose full name is Robin Rihanna Fenty, was conferred with the honor late yesterday. Approximately 400 primary schools approved for the resumption of in-person learning. Nearly 400 primary schools have now been approved for the resumption of next phase of face-to-face learning. That announcement was made by Education Minister Favour Williams.
In continuation of our phased reopening of schools, Cabinet has granted permission for our larger primary schools to be opened for face-to-face. A total of 383 primary schools are approved for the next phase of face-to-face learning. As I said, these schools are our larger primary schools, some with their enrollment above 630, while others are occupying 80% or more of their capacity and will account for some 164,000 students. They must use a rotational schedule given their capacity and enrollment, meaning some students will be in the face-to-face environment on one day, let's say Monday, while others are at home, and then those who are at home would rotate and come into the face-to-face environment. In any 1 week, students must be at school for at least 2 days out of the week. These schools must also be inspected and approved as COVID-19 compliant by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. In the first week of face-to-face learning, which commenced on November 8, 2021, 248 of the approved 376 primary schools opened for in-person learning, and these schools reported an average attendance of some 33,158 students of approximately 50,000 students enrolled, or 66% for the week ended November 12, 2021. In the second week, which ended on November 19, 2021, 410 schools opened for face-to-face, but that number includes some of our standalone infant schools. And our principals reported an average attendance of some 40,147 students, or approximately 80%. Currently, there are some 206,000 students at the secondary level. Approximately 56,000, or 27% of these students, are currently benefiting from limited face-to-face learning in preparation for external examinations because of the deadlines associated with their activities. Secondary schools, reaching 65% or more of their student population being fully vaccinated, are allowed to be back in the face-to-face environment. The remote learning opportunities or the online opportunities will continue to be available for those who've chosen not to be vaccinated. Several of our high schools have reported that they have attained or are very close to attaining the 65% vaccination rate. And just to give you an example, some of these schools are Ardennes High, St. George's College, York Castle High, Campion College, St. Andrew High School for Girls, Glenmuir, Denby, Knox College, and Kingston College. It must be noted that to date, 124,604 students aged 12 to 18 have received at least one dose of the Pfizer vaccine, which is 60% of the targeted population of 206,635. Parliament is asked to note that the Ministry has in place a rural transportation program to accommodate close to 7,500 PATH and other needy students from 250 primary and high schools across 13 parishes. This service will be reactivated to support targeted students of schools that will be open face-to-face. The Ministry will also continue to strengthen its partnership with JUTC to accommodate students in Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, and targeted corridors in St. Thomas and Clarendon.
Government won't renew controversial contract between CAP and consultancy firm. The government has announced that it will not renew the controversial contract between Clarendon Alumna Production Company and CCA Capital Partners Limited. The confirmation comes as Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark named a new board with a directive to resume production at Jamalco Bauxite plant in the shortest possible time. In providing an update to the House of Representatives, the Finance Minister says there is no need for the Gordon Shirley chaired board to continue with the contract with CCA Capital Partners.
The controversial contract was halted by Prime Minister Andrew Holness just over 2 weeks ago after Nationwide exclusively revealed the details surrounding the contract's renewal. The Prime Minister subsequently transferred portfolio responsibility from Robert Montague's Mining Ministry to Dr. Clark's Finance Ministry. Today, the Finance Minister announced that his newly appointed 9-member board will not proceed with the contract.
With this board in place, Madam Speaker, the contract in question in the public domain, which expired on October 11, with this board in place, there's no need for any continuation of that. Madam Speaker, I will be focused as the responsible minister on moving forward with achieving the strategic objectives of CAP as outlined, as this is a macro-critical mission of tremendous fiscal importance to Jamaica.
Among those appointed to the new board are engineer Peter McIntosh, former managing director of CAP Winston Hayden, former Caribbean head of the IDB Jerry Johnson, and a senior analyst at the Finance Ministry Stephanie Abrahams. In advising that the contract with CCA Capital Partners will not be renewed, the Finance Minister told the House of Representatives that the focus of the new CAP board will be the resumption of production at Jamalco following a recent fire in September. The minister says the economy is losing millions from the loss of production at Jamalco.
The fire is a major threat to Jamaica's economic recovery. Jamalco, let me just put it in a nutshell. Jamalco has the capacity to produce 1.2 million tons of alumina. Prices vary on the world market, but today it's about $330 a ton. Let's just use that at full production. So with Jamalco producing zero right now because it's down, it represents an annualized loss to the economy of $400 million US dollars. It's as if you took the BPO industry and wiped most of it out overnight. That's the equivalent of what has happened to us since September.
Minister Clark says the new board will therefore proceed at pace to ensure Jamalco becomes a fully incorporated entity.
The shareholders of Jamalco, which are CAP and Noble, will there have to be smart, practical, business-like, strategic, and technically proficient. The parallel priority for the new board will be to continue the work towards incorporation of Jamalco. As I said earlier, this work has been underway for much of the past 4 years. Substantial progress has been made over that time, and the legal agreements to give effect to incorporation have been substantially agreed, with the exception of a handful of major items to be resolved.
Mining Minister moving to correct historic wrong and ensure more Jamaicans receive land titles. Mining Minister Robert Montague says his ministry is intensifying moves to correct a historic wrong and put more land titles in the hands of Jamaicans. Minister Montague says it's important that the process of issuing land titles to several thousands of families who've been occupying bauxite lands for several years be completed.
We have a bauxite land titling program that I'm so proud of. We are moving to correct an historic wrong and to get people their titles who have been denied that over the years. We are moving to clear the backlog of some 3,000 titles. As a matter of fact, UC Russell in Yuatan, they are down to only 82 titles outstanding. We are proud of the work we're doing. We'll be reintroducing the train to carry our students, and we're going to do a cashless service because we are targeting the children on path.
PNP's vote against extension of states of emergency appears to put Jamaica back at square one, stated Bruce Golding. Former Prime Minister Bruce Golding says it almost appears Jamaica is back to square one as it relates to crime after the People's National Party (PNP) blocked a resolution to extend states of public emergency across the island. He says it reminds him of the situation which obtained following the imposition of an SOE in 2010. Mr. Golding says, following that measure, the security forces were able to significantly disrupt gang activities.
And some of them feel that had we could really have made a lasting dent in the level of murders that were taking place in Jamaica. The opposition decided, when I took the bill to Parliament in July 20th of 2010, that they would not support it, and the state of emergency ended. Seems to me that we are almost back to that kind of scenario. No, I don't, and I don't for the very reasons why that provision was instituted. It was instituted to prevent the government from using a state of emergency, which virtually collapses the fundamental rights of the people of Jamaica, to prevent a government from using that state of emergency for corrupt purposes, as was done in 1976. Because of the veto power that the Charter of Rights vests in them in relation to the use of a state of emergency, the opposition must also be held accountable by the people of Jamaica for their intervention by virtue of that provision in the Charter of Rights, for their intervention in the management of the security of the country. So it must be a calculated decision that they make, and they must be prepared to reap the credit if their intervention is one that inures to the goodwill of the country. But they must also be prepared to reap the consequences if it turns out that their intervention has adversely affected the management of the security of the country.
Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.